In the ever-watchful world of international tennis, rumors can spread like wildfire, and few names ignite speculation as quickly as that of Italy's golden boy, Jannik Sinner. Recently, whispers of romance once again flooded social media when his ex-girlfriend, Maria Braccini, shared a string of eye-catching photographs from Rome. The timing was almost too perfect to ignore. Her post coincided with Sinner's highly anticipated appearance at the Italian Open. For fans and followers, it felt like a story straight from a tabloid headline. Was this a subtle hint of reconciliation, or merely coincidence? The speculation quickly took hold. Braccini, a social media presence with her own dedicated following, had often been seen as the elegant counterpart to Sinner's quiet determination on court. When the relationship ended in 2021, it left both camps of fans divided, some believing they were destined to rekindle their romance, others convinced that Sinner, with his meteoric rise in the rankings, had simply outgrown the demands of a public relationship. Her sudden presence in Rome added fuel to that ongoing debate. Yet, in a matter of hours, Maria herself shut down the chatter. In a direct and almost curt reply to a fan, she made it abundantly clear. No return and no boyfriend, please. With those 8 words, the speculation of a romantic reunion was quashed. Still, as often happens in the world of elite sport, the denial only added more intrigue. Why was she in Rome? Why now? Was it sheer coincidence or a moment of calculated timing designed to remind the public of her past with one of tennis's brightest stars? The question swirled louder than ever. For Sinner, who has consistently insisted on separating his private life from his professional commitments, this was yet another example of how the spotlight often shifts from his formidable forehand to his personal entanglements. And as the Italian Open progressed, the young champion found himself balancing not only the pressure of center court, but also the endless hum of whispers about his heart. If Maria Braccini's Roman holiday ignited the spark, the flame of curiosity was kept alive by a string of other names linked to Jannik Sinner. The tabloids wasted no time in weaving new narratives. First came the sighting of Lara Leto, a 31-year-old model seen during one of Sinner's private training sessions. The photographs, grainy yet suggestive, made the rounds within hours. To the casual fan, the image was simple. 2 people, a player and a model. But to the gossip-hungry press, it was a tantalizing clue in the ever-evolving mystery of Sinner's personal life. Sinner, usually reserved, was forced to address the situation upon returning to the tour. His response was firm, almost weary. He was single, he insisted, and the pictures with Leto were nothing more than a fleeting coincidence. Yet in today's media landscape, denial rarely extinguishes the story. Instead, it often emboldens it. Why clarify so quickly if there's truly nothing there? Some fans ask, their curiosity only intensifying. Not long after, Sinner's name became entangled with that of Anna Kalinskaya, a fellow professional whose presence in Rome during the ATP Masters 1000 created yet another angle for the gossip pages. For a brief moment, the headlines seemed to care less about Sinner's brutal backhand and more about who might be cheering for him from the stands. To many, it felt as though his personal life was being transformed into a subplot as dramatic as any match on clay. Amidst the swirl of speculation, Sinner's performance on the court was paradoxically exceptional. He stormed past formidable opponents such as Casper Ruud and Tommy Paul, each victory adding to the weight of expectation. Yet as he reached the final against Spain's rising sensation Carlos Alcaraz, it was impossible to ignore the noise outside the arena. Was the 23-year-old battling only Alcaraz across the net, or also the shadow of rumors that threatened to cloud his focus? In sport, as in life, distractions are inevitable. But for Sinner, the question was becoming sharper. Could he maintain his reputation as one of the most disciplined young athletes on tour while the world insisted on dissecting his private life? By the time Jannik Sinner stepped onto center court for the Italian Open final, the air was heavy with expectation. Rome, bathed in early summer sun, had transformed into a theater where not just tennis but narratives of youth, rivalry, and destiny collided. On one side of the net stood Carlos Alcaraz, the Spanish prodigy who had already cemented himself as the sport's great disruptor. On the other stood Sinner, Italy's most promising son, whose campaign through the draw had been as relentless as it was elegant. The match promised fireworks. What it delivered was drama of a different kind. Sinner had arrived at this point having dispatched some of the circuit's finest. His victories over Casper Ruud and Tommy Paul showcased the cold precision of his baseline play, his ability to turn defense into sudden aggression. Yet, as he squared off against Alcaraz, whispers of his private life lingered like background noise. The cameras seemed as interested in the stands, searching for familiar faces, speculating over possible reunions, as they were in the action on the red clay. For a player who has always demanded that his tennis speak louder than tabloids, it was a cruel irony. The opening set was fierce. Sinner traded blows with Alcaraz in an exchange of power and finesse that had fans on their feet. But when the tiebreak slipped away 7-6, the momentum shifted. In the second set, Alcaraz pounced with the ruthless energy of a champion in the making, sweeping it 6-1. For Sinner, the loss was bitter, not simply because of the scoreline, but because of what it represented. Another step in the growing rivalry that threatens to define the next decade of tennis. Yet even in defeat, Sinner's stock rose. His calm handshake at the net, his composed words in the post-match press conference, and his refusal to engage with questions about rumored relationships reminded the sporting world of his maturity. To many observers, the loss to Alcaraz was not an ending, but a prelude, a sign that this rivalry, still in its infancy, could become one of the greatest the sport has ever known. And still, the off-court noise persisted. Was his focus being undermined by endless speculation, or was he proving with every point played that discipline could triumph over distraction? For many British fans, the fascination with Jannik Sinner extends well beyond his forehand winners, or his ability to glide across clay. In a sporting culture that prizes narrative as much as raw achievement, Sinner has quickly become more than just a tennis player. He has become a story. And stories, as the British press know too well, thrive on more than numbers on a scoreboard. They feed on mystery, on personal battles, and on the subtle collision between triumph and vulnerability. The coverage of his rumored romances illustrates this perfectly. While Sinner insists he is single and focused, the papers continue to speculate, weaving in names like Maria Braccini, Lara Ledo, and Anna Kalinskaya, as if they were characters in a play. In Britain, where tabloid headlines often bleed onto the back pages of sport, such narratives are irresistible. The contrast is striking. On one hand, Sinner is celebrated as a consummate professional, disciplined and unflappable. On the other, he is portrayed as a young man whose heart might be as unpredictable as a 5-set thriller at Wimbledon. Yet this duality is precisely what keeps audiences hooked. The public craves heroes who are both formidable and relatable. Watching Sinner struggle against Alcaraz, while whispers of Braccini's Instagram linger in the background, creates a kind of drama that pure sport alone cannot provide. For British broadcasters and journalists, it is the perfect cocktail, excellence on court, spiced with just enough intrigue off it. More importantly, Sinner's calm defiance in the face of such scrutiny is shaping his reputation in a uniquely powerful way. He rarely lashes out, never seems rattled, and instead lets his tennis and his silence do the talking. To the British eye, this restraint carries echoes of past champions who balanced fame with stoic determination. It suggests a player who, though young, understands the weight of his position in the global game. But as the spotlight grows brighter, so too does the risk. In an era where reputation can swing with the tide of a single headline, can Jannik Sinner maintain his balance between sporting excellence and the relentless demand for narrative? Behind the rallies and rivalries, another narrative has begun to unfold. Jannik Sinner as a commercial powerhouse. His clean image, quiet charisma, and relentless work ethic have made him a magnet for sponsors eager to attach their names to tennis's next great champion. In Italy, he is already a national treasure. Globally, he is becoming the face of a new era, marketable, disciplined, and refreshingly authentic. Brands crave athletes who embody both success and story, and Sinner delivers both. His endorsement portfolio is steadily expanding, from sportswear giants to luxury watches, and his appeal lies in the balance he strikes between humility and ambition. Yet, as history has often shown, a brand's value can be influenced as much by off-court headlines as by on-court results. The whispers of romances, whether with Braccini, Ledo, or Kalinskaya, may seem trivial, but in a world where perception drives profit, even rumors have weight. To his credit, Sinner has so far managed this delicate dance with remarkable maturity. His insistence on privacy sends a clear message. Sponsors can trust him to remain focused and uncontroversial. Still, every headline that blurs the line between his professional achievements and personal life reminds us of the fragile tightrope modern athletes must walk. In Britain, where commercial value is scrutinized almost as closely as sporting form, the question is no longer whether Sinner will be a superstar. It is whether he can sustain the purity of his image in a world desperate for scandal. As the curtain falls on another turbulent chapter in Jannik Sinner's career, the questions facing him are larger than any single match. At just 23, He has already lived through cycles of adoration, speculation, and criticism that might break lesser athletes. Yet the very fact that he continues to thrive, rising in the rankings, holding his nerve in finals, and brushing aside gossip with a quiet dignity, reveals the steel at his core. The road ahead promises to be no less dramatic, but it also offers the chance to shape a legacy that could redefine modern tennis. For many, the rivalry with Carlos Alcaraz will become the defining stage upon which Sinner's greatness is tested. The Italian Open final was but one act in what promises to be a decade-long drama, a clash of contrasting styles and personalities. Alcaraz, fiery and flamboyant, thrives in chaos. Sinner, calm and deliberate, finds order where others unravel. Together they form a sporting narrative that needs no embellishment, the clash of titans that every generation longs for. Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, the Davis Cup. Each tournament becomes another canvas on which this rivalry might etch its mark. But beyond the court, the story of Jannik Sinner is equally compelling. In Britain, his appeal is growing rapidly, not only because of his performances, but because he embodies something rare in the age of instant fame: restraint. He does not post cryptic messages or fuel gossip. He deflects, he focuses, he moves forward. In an era of oversharing, his silence speaks louder than words. And paradoxically, it is this silence that makes him even more fascinating to the public. Fans, journalists, and brands alike lean in, desperate to decode the mystery. Of course, the challenge will be sustaining this balance. Every photograph, every casual encounter, every Instagram post from an ex-girlfriend has the potential to create a storm. But perhaps that, too, is part of the modern athlete's reality. Greatness today is measured not only in titles, but in the ability to weather the noise. Sinner, with his unflinching gaze and grounded upbringing, appears uniquely equipped for the task. As the future unfolds, the stakes are monumental. A first Wimbledon title could propel him into the pantheon of modern greats. A Davis Cup victory could immortalize him in Italian sport. Yet perhaps his greatest triumph will be something subtler: the ability to remain true to himself while the world insists on writing his story for him. In this sense, Sinner is not just playing for trophies, he is playing for control of his own narrative. And if he continues as he has begun, he may well emerge not merely as a champion, but as a legend whose story was as captivating off the court as it was on it. If you enjoyed this dramatic journey into the world of Jannik Sinner, his triumphs, his rivalries, and the whispers that surround him, then don't miss what comes next. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss another story. Join our growing community of sports fans, share your thoughts in the comments, and be part of the conversation that takes you closer to the stars of world sport.